After President Hindenburg's death, Hitler merged the presidency and chancellorship, declaring himself Führer. Once in power, Hitler wasted no time consolidating his control over every aspect of German life. Political opposition was swiftly crushed, with communists, socialists, and dissenters imprisoned or executed. Trade unions were banned and replaced by the Nazi-controlled German Labor Front. The regime employed widespread propaganda, orchestrated by Joseph Goebbels, to glorify Hitler and instill Nazi ideology. Education, culture, and media were reshaped to align with Nazi principles. The Gestapo and SS, led by Heinrich Himmler, enforced terror and obedience. By eliminating all rivals and centralizing authority, Hitler transformed Germany into a totalitarian state, laying the foundation for aggressive expansion and racial persecution. The Night of the Long Knives eliminated internal Nazi threats. The Nuremberg Laws institutionalized racial discrimination against Jews. Hitler remilitarized the Rhineland, violating the Versailles Treaty. Western democracies failed to act. Hitler annexed Austria in the Anschluss and seized Sudetenland from Czechoslovakia after the Munich Agreement. Appeasement emboldened him. On September 1, 1939, Germany invaded Poland, prompting Britain and France to declare war. World War II had begun. Hitler's blitzkrieg tactics led to the fall of France. The Battle of Britain followed. Hitler failed to subdue the UK. Hitler launched Operation Barbarossa, the invasion of the Soviet Union. It marked the beginning of a brutal genocidal campaign in the East. The Wannsee Conference formalized the final solution, the industrialized extermination of Jews. Death camps like Auschwitz escalated mass murder. After the defeat at Stalingrad, Hitler's invincibility myth began to crumble. Following the catastrophic defeat at Stalingrad in early 1943, Germany's fortunes in the war began to unravel. The once relentless Nazi war machine was now on the defensive, suffering losses on both the eastern and western fronts. Allied bombing raids devastated German cities, while Soviet forces pushed westward, reclaiming vast territories. Hitler, increasingly isolated in his bunker and refusing to accept military realities, issued unrealistic commands that sacrificed countless German lives. His paranoia deepened, and he placed blind trust in loyalists like Himmler and Goebbels, even as his military leadership fractured. Despite mounting losses, the Nazi regime intensified the Holocaust, accelerating deportations and extermination efforts. In 1944, after the D-Day landings in Normandy opened a Western front, Hitler's grasp on Europe weakened rapidly. That same year, he narrowly survived an assassination attempt by German officers. As Allied forces closed in, Hitler's dream of a 1,000-year Reich was clearly collapsing around him. He became increasingly erratic, refusing retreat or negotiation. Survived the July 20th assassination attempt by Klaus von Stauffenberg. He purged the army and insisted on total war. The Allies landed in Normandy. The Third Reich collapsed. Hitler married Eva Braun on April 29th, then committed suicide in his Berlin bunker on April 30th, 1945, as Soviet troops closed in. Germany surrendered days later. Hitler's death ended one of history's darkest chapters. He had left behind a shattered Europe, the deaths of over 70 million people, and the Holocaust, 6 million Jews murdered, along with millions of other victims of Nazi brutality. As the Allies advanced into Germany in April 1945, the Third Reich rapidly collapsed. Adolf Hitler, isolated and surrounded in his underground Führer bunker in Berlin, faced the inevitable defeat of the regime he had led. With Soviet forces closing in on the city, Hitler spent his final days in retreat from the outside world, increasingly disconnected from reality. On April 29th, he married his longtime companion Eva Braun in a private civil ceremony. The next day, on April 30th, 1945, both died by suicide in the bunker. Their remains were partially destroyed, following Hitler's instructions. Shortly afterward, German military leaders began surrender negotiations. Germany officially capitulated on May 7, 1945, and the surrender took effect on May 8, marking the end of World War II in Europe. The consequences of the war were immense. Europe lay in ruins. Over 70 million lives had been lost worldwide, and the full extent of the Holocaust, resulting in the murder of 6 million Jews and millions of other victims, was becoming known. Hitler's death signified the final fall of a dictatorship that had caused unprecedented devastation. The world entered a period of reckoning, recovery, and reflection, determined to prevent such atrocities from occurring again. The Nuremberg trials sought justice. Germany was divided, and the Cold War began. Hitler's ideology was universally condemned, but neo-Nazi movements and authoritarian echoes still linger.